Welcome back, everyone. Exactly 50 years ago, a treaty uniting Africa's western region comprising of Benin, Cabo Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, the Gambia, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, and Togo was enacted. Guided by fundamental principles as stated in Article 3 of the ECOWAS Treaty, the body pledged to be bounded by equality and interdependence of member states, interstate cooperation, harmonization of policies, and integration of programs, a peaceful settlement of disputes among member states, trade and economic viability, just to mention a few. 50 years after, has the body achieved its goal? Tonight, we will explore this as well as other issues plaguing the body. I'm now being joined by former Nigerian ambassador to Burundi, Ambassador Elijah Onyeagba. Good evening, Ambassador. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, and it's my pleasure being in your studio.
All right, so how would you assess ECOWAS at 50 when you look at it vis-a-vis its stated objectives in 1975?
First, thank you very much, and good evening, Nigerians. It's been a very interesting journey over the last 50 years for ECOWAS. Like you mentioned, it commenced exactly this day 50 years ago in what they referred to at the time as the Lagos Treaty, bringing together 15 member nation states. And if you look at what has happened, there has been a lot of progress that has happened on a couple of fronts. There has also been a lot of improvements in terms of the dynamics of the relations over the years. There has also been some challenges as well, because post-1975, what we began to see was that they were very clear in terms of the first agenda, which has to do with protocol, the ECOWAS protocol on the free movement of goods and services, where it was agreed that citizens of member nation states can actually crisscross one another. And that also followed by the trade liberalization agreement of what you refer to as the ELTS. And in the first 10 to 15 years of ECOWAS existence, they were very strong on these issues. Subsequently, there was also issues relating to security, and that was sometime in 1990, if I have to analyze maybe the next second 25 years of ECOWAS, where we began to have challenges with respect to wars, where ECOWAS had to set up the ECOMOG at the time, and sent in these troops to help quell the challenge we had in Liberia at the time. And of course, in 1997, I think another civil war that also took place in Sierra Leone. And then there has also been involvement in issues relating to managing our diplomatic relations. And that by that, I mean ECOWAS setting up a mechanism for for mediation, for peacekeeping, and for conflict resolution. And that also led to improving our institutional framework. And that's where we did set up the ECOWAS Commission, like we have the headquarters in Abuja here, the ECOWAS Parliament, as well as the ECOWAS, Court of Justice that could also look into certain legal issues as well. So the major challenge you can see has also to deal with the coup d'etat, and of course the latest pullout of the ECOWAS, by the Sahel states of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. That
Ambassador, we'll get to that shortly, because the only surviving president who was there in 1975 also did speak to how that sort of cast a shadow. That's General Gowon also, also sort of spoke to how that cast a shadow on the celebration. But I want to talk about the success of ECOWAS in comparison to other regional blocs. When you look at SADC and the EAC, for example, they do not have the kind of structure and that level of integration that ECOWAS has. Why has ECOWAS been more successful than other regional blocs in the continent? All right, thanks for staying with us. We are looking at ECOWAS at 50, the progress, the success, and the challenges. I will be speaking with Nigeria's former ambassador to Burundi, Ambassador Elijah Onyeagba. He joins us virtually from Abuja. Thanks for staying with us.
Thank you very much.
So just before that break, I wanted you to speak to why you think that the ECOWAS is more successful compared to other regional blocs in the continent.
Yes, I think there has been in comparison with the rest of the regional bloc, I think ECOWAS stands, top. If you look at other regional blocs within the continent and some of the things that they've achieved over the years. And it has to deal with leadership, in my opinion. And I think that issues relating to integration has been a lot easier for ECOWAS. Issues relating to the protocol of movement has been a lot easier. Maybe because we don't have that much, land mass. I'm not quite sure whether that's the issue, but you can see that there has been some level of consistency. From 1975, had tried to analyze the progress, that has happened. You can look at the first 10 years, you can look at the first 20 years, and then, of course, what has happened lately. You will see that there has been some level of consistency and improvements over the years, with respect to what is going on within ECOWAS. And of course, in comparison with SADC, with EAC, and maybe COMESA, for example, you will give a lot of credit to the West African leaders and the people that have initiated this. And it's very heartwarming to see General Gowon today make a speech, because he was actually at the heart of the formation of ECOWAS 50 years ago. And you can see that not just that we've also made progress, there are clear challenges that has also been there, because you can't talk about the progress that has been made and some of the achievements without also looking at the challenges that came through across, and of course how the 15-member nation state responded. Between 1990 and 1997, we would have had a lot of crises where we had this civil war going on in Liberia, followed by that of Sierra Leone and all of that. There has been some responsive leadership with ECOWAS over the years. You can see the initiative of setting up ECOMOG at that time to go in and then help over the years and then ensure that there was restoration of peace in both Liberia and Sierra Leone. In addition to the restoration of peace, also ensured that there was also transition from the military government at the time to also civilian. So we look back with a lot of gratitude on the achievement that has also before ECOWAS today, but also looking forward with a lot of excitement in the future, because whereas these challenges, these achievements are there, we also have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, where are the what are the areas of improvement? You can look at issue of security. Security is also a very big issue at this particular point in time. Breakaway nation states are also an issue. Coup d'etats are also an issue. The youth unemployment, and of course getting them travel across the Sahara Desert and some by the sea is also a lot of issues. And making ECOWAS, a people-driven, regional body, because as it is now, you can look at it and say that a lot of people view ECOWAS with respect to government relations. People still don't begin, there's a lot of work that ECOWAS can do to also make their policies and strategies and the things that they're implementing to be people-driven. And one of the things that can also drive that is when you begin to look at having a common currency. Over the last 30 years or thereabout, the ECO has been a conversation within the regional body. And I think that the moment...
And that seems to be something that hasn't been achieved, even though it has been talked about over and over again. But I wanted to stay on the issue, we'll get to that shortly, but just on the issue of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. You've talked about ECOMOG, which was one of the conflict resolution mechanism of ECOWAS in the past, but things seem to be quite different now. Is ECOWAS losing its clout and bite in terms of how it resolves conflicts, in the region?
I don't think, challenges differ from time to time. What is going on now? Don't forget that this is a, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, 100 years. This is a, 100 years, 150 years, 200 years, 300 years, 400 years, 500 years, 600 years, 700 years, 800 years, 900 years, 1000 years. What is going on now? Don't forget that this is this is a continent that the Europeans sat down in Berlin and just balkanized and gave some to Germany, gave some to Belgium, gave some to the British, gave some to France and all of that. Incidentally, about 8 out of these original 15 member states are actually colonized by France. And there has been a lot of issues going on in terms of conversation and in terms of exploitation of the continent, of course, by extension, or particularly the region. These issues are there, but do not forget that even with those issues, there has been progress, and unfortunately, like you had the speakers, they talk about the fact that coup d'etat became a direct response to maybe poor leadership or exploitation, external exploitation or influence on some of these member nation states. Of course, they are sovereign nations. They have their issues. They are dealing with them and all of that. We have followed what has happened in the last 2 years with Niger first, and then Mali, as well as Burkina Faso, the military coming in to say, they are unhappy with what is going on with the leadership within the continent. Of course, the rest of ECOWAS responded by, sanctioning them as a result of the military involvement. They also responded back by saying that the rest of the member nation states didn't trust them or didn't, see things from their own point of view. We quite understand, but the president, being the leader of ECOWAS, was very clear in terms of how he wanted to drive his foreign policy agenda. It was about democracy. It was about big support for democratically elected government. And the position at the time was that no matter the challenges you face, there must be an internal democratic means of ensuring that these issues are addressed other than just the military involvement. We are in a very difficult situation at this point in time, particularly as it relates to them. But I see it as an ego issue. I see it as military dictatorship doing what they know how best to do, which is basically to offer their own solution. But at the end of the day, you also begin to see that some of the things that they are doing is actually not right, because that means that there will be suppression of opinion. That means that the media is not free. There's just quite a lot. That means that. But
unfortunately, Ambassador, you say that because. Yes. You have an idea of how democracy works, but on this continent, for a lot of people who feel that they have been deprived by leadership, some of these military leaders are becoming superstars in their eyes. And I just wanted to, get your reaction to what the General Yakubu Gowon offered as a solution. He said, and I'm quoting him, if what it takes is to add another S to become ECOWAS, which is the Economic Community of West African States and Sahel, then so be it. Is that the way to go in terms of further engagement with these breakaway countries?
Well, what has happened is that engagement has never stopped since they pulled out of ECOWAS. I have followed this, particularly with the president at the helm of affairs of ECOWAS. Engagement has been on, and even the protocol basically says that 1 year after you give a notice of pullout, that it also comes into effect. ECOWAS, on their own part, has also extended, by another 6 months, hoping, that there will be a lot of progress that will be made within this period. And if it means adding Sahel to it, that's fine, so long as the breakaway states will understand that Sahel now means that it is now the 3 countries joining together as one, no longer 3 presidents. So maybe we are looking at a situation where 15 member nation states will come down to 14 because Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, it means that the Sahel can come as single body. But if they still even want to come as independent countries, there will always be, this problem is a diplomatic problem, and diplomatic problem also requires diplomatic solutions. I believe that the only way to resolve this is to get back to engagement, which is what is going on now. At some point, the engagement was led by the president of Senegal. At even upon the inauguration of the Ghana president, he also got involved. So I think that ECOWAS are still leaving their doors open. The leadership of ECOWAS are still leaving their doors open, hoping that the breakaway nation states will find reason over time, because it's not just about the fact that you have said that you have pulled out. I always remember that Niger, for example, over the years has been very close to Nigeria on so many fronts, economic, diplomatic, and all of that, because we are neighbors. Over the years, you find out that it's really difficult to separate citizens of both countries, particularly those that live near the border. Quite a lot of states, across northern Nigeria, border Niger. So it's really difficult if you now begin to separate them, to say, you know what, you guys need to have a different passport. I think they've actually introduced a new passport this time around. You guys need to have a different passport. You have to, for you to now move your goods and services, there's a different protocol for it. Nigerians that are living in Nigeria and vice versa will have to move, families and all of that. So it's really a very difficult situation. But I believe that with time, I believe that I'm hoping, just like the founders of ECOWAS stated today, that there will be some sort of truce at some point. But even if there is none, somehow the beauty of it is that once you are on an engagement table and conversation goes on, somehow there will be some level of understanding. That
Ambassador, I have like a minute left, and I hope that we can have your contribution, for like 30 seconds. When you look at the ECOWAS economic integration, it looks good on paper, but when you actually look at the volume of trade compared to how it trades with other countries, it is very low. How should ECOWAS reposition itself as it begins to look to the next 50 years, especially when it comes to the single currency, a single market, and then just providing good leadership for its citizens?
Well, I think there has to be a lot of improvement in infrastructure for trade to happen, for us to trade more with ourselves, because no matter how good it looks on paper, we must have our highways, we must have air transportation infrastructure that can allow movement of goods and services and people across, within the member nation state. But I also think that going forward, ECOWAS needs to also invest in rebuilding trust. And that's in the process of that. I believe that even trying to get these Sahel states back is also part of the process of rebuilding trust. I think there will also be a lot of attention that needs to be paid to our youths going forward, because employment is an issue for the youth. And this is a continent and, of course, a regional body that have got a lot of its population under the age of 30. It means that attention must be paid to our youths. And of course, there will be a lot of work that needs to be done on the economic front to be able to see if we can achieve the single currency. It's a challenge now because countries have different fiscal policies, countries have different debt levels, countries have different inflation rates, they have different reserves and all of that. So a lot of economic indices are part of it. And 8 countries also use the CFA. And then the other countries have their own different currencies. But I believe that there has to be some level of harmonization, and central banks across the member nation states needs to begin to work together to see if it is what we can achieve. And of course, timeline keeps moving. It's time to work together to ensure that we can have a common currency. So a lot of work is cut out ahead, but I believe that with the leadership, we can always make progress as a regional body. I
mean, we cannot exhaust this conversation. It's 50 years and so many issues to talk about. Thank you so much for your time. We do have to leave it there. Former Nigerian Ambassador to Burundi, Ambassador Elijah Onyeagba, always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you very much, and God bless you. God bless Nigeria.